call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is the meeting minutes from last meeting.
September 25th. I have two.
Go ahead.
Line 67. I'd like to change. It would say, let's put the town to assist in developing the town's easement. Remain developing, not create. Easement. So it'll say, and to work with the towns to assist in developing the town's easement for a maintained water trail. Make sense?
Hmm?
And line 174. I would say, by 40+ guests who collaborated on programming and infrastructure at the tank rec. If we say the longevity of, that's not all what we're doing. And that's all I had. Do you have anything, Jack?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 25th as amended.
Second,
Second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The non-public meeting minute. I'll make a motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes.
Second that.
25th as amended.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is our third, I think final hearing on changing some of the covenants in the Lincoln Industrial Park. I know we've gone over this a lot of times, but I will read it again. We're looking to change the covenant B, which currently says any commercial or light industrial use of these lots or the structures thereupon must be of the type expected to require regular on-site staff supervision and employment. No use primarily intended for storage or other unattended purposes will be allowed. And we're gonna replace that with no self-storage unit or units of any kind shall be permitted on the conveyed lot or lots, and no self-storage use shall be permitted on the conveyed lot or lots. And then the second change is adding one new covenant that says the town shall have the right to impose different or additional covenants and restrictions in any future conveyance of any of the remaining lots within the subdivision of the Lincoln Industrial Park in the town of Lincoln, New Hampshire, surveyed January 1993 and July 2006 by Saborn Surveying, Inc. Provided that any such different or additional covenants and restrictions shall not, without express written agreement, apply to the lots owned by the current lot owners. Is there any further comment on this? We did have a response. We were waiting for a response from one of the current lot owners. This is from Kevin Sullivan. He says, I will not be able to make the meeting tonight, but have no opinion as far as the Board of Selectmen voting to change the covenants. My attorney disagrees with the town's attorney's advice, but I have no plans to purchase another lot at this time. Please let me know when the document is ready for me to sign. So that's his response. Is there any other?
I want to point out that the self-storage thing includes no vehicle storage or junkyards. Just so it's out. Well, we can't,
Draft that into the government.
junkyards aren't allowed in town anyway, and I think it covers it. Vehicle storage would be the same as self-storage.
I would say it would be covered. And again,
I agree.
the board has control over what we sell it for, or who we sell it to and what purpose it's for. And it also would have to go before planning board.
I mean, the purpose of doing this was so that the plumber or the electrician could build a shop to have their equipment and stuff in and get ready for the job of the day and then go out and work. And not have to be there all day, every day, manning it, which is what the current covenant said. So, which this would allow.
We should also point out too, that the other owner there, Mike Donahue, has no objection.
Yeah,
They-
he's
they
been on
want-
several
he's-
meetings. and
He's
had
been
no
in
objection.
favor of it.
He had stated that publicly at the last meeting, and I believe the one before
Yeah.
that. So-
And I think the one before that.
Yeah, the one before.
So if there's nothing,
Any other input? All right, I'll make a motion to, accept the new wording of the covenants, for all future conveyances of the lots in the business park.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect.
All right.
So I will have, Jason draft the corrective deeds, which I believe he already has, and then set up a time with the current owners to sign the new deeds as well as, you folks to, get at least the corrective deeds, recorded.
They'll have to be recorded.
Right, and then, we'll just make sure that we use that same format, for any future.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Thank you for that.
Get some input from Jason. Whether we need the corrective deeds or whether this agreement to modify the covenants and restrictions.
I think-
Gets recorded
With.
Right.
with the
correct
old
deed.
deed.
I think that's actually the correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I will leave that file with you.
Okay.
In my thing now.
Yeah, say good, big clean as I.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have, received a proposal from, O'Connell Builders to purchase one of the lots in the industrial park. He has sent a cover letter, just telling us about his company and the facility. I don't think I'm gonna read the whole thing. The offer is for $68,200. The assessed value on that lot is 64,000, so it's a little bit above that. And, just, again, I'm not gonna read every page of this, purchase and sales agreement. But the highlights are that the price is 68.2. It is contingent on the seller getting financing. And then there are some additional provisions, and those I will read. This offer is subject to the seller verifying the four corner pins of the subject lot, so that would be up to the town to do that. The buyer will pay the full New Hampshire real estate transfer tax and the cost of the deed preparation, which I believe the last two sales included those provisions, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's both in our benefit. The town of Lincoln agrees to grant the buyer a recorded right of first refusal for lot number 4, tax map 109, lot 19. He's buying lot, or is
Be the one right beside.
requesting to buy lot 18, and this would be the lot right next to him, which would be the lot between the one he wants to buy and the Sullivan lot, which is also vacant, to have a right of first refusal on that. The buyer's offered purchase price includes a 6% commission payable to Coldwell Banker Lifestyles at the time of the transfer of title. We don't have this listed with a real estate agent, broker.
But he's saying the sale, his price, we're gonna pay it. Well, the commission will come out of his purchase price.
Correct.
So the 68 less 6% is $4,000.
The
Roughly.
additional $4,000
Roughly.
over the assessment.
Right,
Which is.
Yeah, that's.
4,000, it'll be right down to the 64,000.
Correct.
On the other hand, if we had listed these for sale with a broker, they'd be charging us 6%.
6%, yeah.
Anyway.
Right.
All right. The offer is subject to an appraisal conducted by and at the expense of the town of Lincoln, with the results satisfactory to the town. If the price is acceptable to the town and the buyer is duly notified, this contingency shall be satisfied. If the appraisal is not acceptable to the town, meaning the appraisal is in excess of the price offered in the agreement, the buyer will have the right of first refusal to accept the appraised value or terminate and otherwise withdraw this offer and receive a full refund of any deposited funds. So this is kind of a unique, I've never seen this before. It says that we'll pay for an appraisal. Obviously, if the appraisal comes in at or below the offer price, we're good to go. If it comes in higher, which very well maybe, that either we take his price, we negotiate something in the middle, or if he doesn't want to negotiate to what the appraised value is, he gets his money back and walk away.
You know, before you buy something, you usually do the due diligence and you come up with a price that, you base your bid on, or you base your offer on. And I don't know why we'd be paying for that. You know, I think that if he wants it, he should, you know, he's looked at the market. I'm sure his agent has looked at the market. They know what it's worth. Why should we be paying additional monies?
I don't disagree with that, but what are we talking here? Are we talking $100? Are we talking 1,000? What does an appraisal cost?
It's gonna be definitely more than $100.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, my my just knee jerk was gonna be
I would say
somewhere,
100.
yeah. I would say under 1,000, yeah, under 1,000, but I think it's definitely gonna be more than a couple $100, so.
I mean, you're right that that's the typical way to do it.
right,
But the way this is worded leaves an upside for the town. I mean, if the appraisal comes in at 75,
Well, here,
we could say,
then we can
we
negotiate.
could say, we
between
want
someone.
75 for it. We could negotiate some way back and forth. If it comes in at, his purchase, his offered price, okay, we've spent $600 on a appraisal. But it's
And
certainly
what do we have it assessed for right now?
64.
64.
Well, I think if we had it appraised, any future real estate sale will be a little bit more sound, I guess, because we would have an example of
Basis.
a basis to go off of, right? Because right now we're taking essentially the town's assessed value and saying that seems fair. But if we did go through with the appraisal process, at least we would have a licensed real estate appraisal appraiser giving us a comp essentially for what those should go for.
I guess I think in looking at the whole package of provisions, the fact that he's paying for the entire real estate transfer tax, which typically the seller pays half.
Right.
And the cost of the deed preparation. And possibly gives us some upside. I don't object to that.
Could be a risk worth taking.
All right. The one that I think is an issue. Is granting the buyer a recorded right of first refusal for lot number 19.
Why is that a problem?
When we talked about doing this last time, that was a big point of contention between
Oh,
the,
that was the one.
right. The adjacent lot owner
Yeah.
who had expressed an interest in that lot. And our statement
And in the what,
was,
4 years?
was that we wanted, first of all, we wanted to make sure that the sale of that lot satisfied the town's goals, which is not to sell the land, but to provide space for business owners to do business in this town, hire people, pay taxes, contribute to the town.
It wouldn't prevent us from selling that lot to anybody that wants to come in. It would just give this buyer the option to match that offer.
The price of
Right.
that offer,
Correct.
and then they could let it sit empty for how long? In
Not
1 year,
if you
2
look-
years,
Doesn't it
5
say
years?
it has to be developed in the covenants that we have? It is a time frame for an established business on the property, so they couldn't.
I do believe you're correct.
That is correct, but that's been hard to enforce. I mean, that has technically happened with lots that weren't sold for cash, but were part of the trade. But we've,
You know, I personally don't like giving the future away, you know, I mean, I understand what you're saying, Tammy, if Jack Daly comes in and he wants to purchase it tomorrow, then you go to Mr. O'Connell and say, okay,
This is what he offered.
do it or
Can you match it?
get out. Yeah,
Yeah, you
I
would-
agree, here's my offer, but,
I've never seen an issue with.
you know, I don't
offering
know whether we've run into this situation before, I don't believe we have. Um, You had an opportunity to look at this, did you run that by our attorney?
I didn't, I mean, I think that's probably something that before the board votes on, we should probably get a legal opinion, on.
See, I don't see that as a problem at all. It's
See, I
simply
agree.
because. You know, if you came next week and wanted to buy it for 100,000, he could match that or say, no, I'm not ready. I think it's 18 months to develop it. I don't remember. I don't,
Jim,
plan on
I
doing
don't
anything,
disagree
or-
with your argument at all. What I'm just saying, I don't know if it's legal that we kind of mortgage the future with this type of an agreement. If the attorney says, go ahead and do it,
I think if it excluded other people from purchasing it.
Right. No, I
purchasing
know-
it,
I know what you're saying.
Maybe. I mean, I'll go with whatever the attorney says. I just personally don't see an issue with it. Because even if he bought it, he can't sit on it. He's gonna do something with it. It has to. Says it right in the covenants, so you have to develop it.
I think that's, but I do agree, I think that's hard to enforce, like, how do we?
right, if he owns it for 18 months and hasn't developed it, we then go to court.
Right.
It's gonna cost us more money than it was.
Same with this money. He's buying, we sell this lot on the corner, the one away from it, and in 18 months, if he doesn't develop it, what are we gonna do? Same thing? I mean,
The risk is much
if Joe
lower.
Blow from Idaho comes and buys the one
The
beside
risk-
it,
I'm s-
it doesn't do it,
you're
it's the
correct.
same thing.
You're
It's not- I don't,
But this is contingent on him getting $150,000 worth of financing to buy a $68,000 lot, because with that same loan, he's gonna be building a building. Well, the bank's not gonna give him the money if he doesn't build the building. I think there's just a lot safer bet here. I also, we got flack from this the last time, and it was pointed out, and I agreed to it the last time. And I admitted that I made a mistake. I would, if I could go back and do that vote again, I would say no. And one of the things is this technically binds future boards of selectmen to a specific thing that we agreed to, but doesn't exist yet.
precedent.
You know, we're telling a future board, like, let's say that this is 5 years from now, and none of us are here. The 3 people sitting here have to do what we decide to grant him this future right with no real reason to do it. I mean, if he was that worried about
what's the reason not
expanding,
to?
if he was real worried about not expanding, buy a lot that has an adjacent lot on both sides that's available instead of just one. And then if he sees that one gets sold, he could make the offer on the second one before it gets sold. But it would have to be a viable offer, and you would have to have plans to develop it. I mean, if it was that big of a deal.
7, right, we have 9 in total, 9 in total, 2 have been sold,
Yeah.
am I correct in that?
Wait.
Wait a second.
Well, Don, first second,
Two.
Oh, you're right.
and Sullivan,
And there's one.
2 property, right, 2 property owners, 3, you're right, 3 lots,
3 lots.
Yeah. so 6.
So for those in the
There's
audience, I
5
mean,
and 6 left.
this has just been, you know, sitting since 2006, I think, and it was resurrected that, okay, we've got dormant land doing nothing. Let's try to do something on it. I throw out initially the possibility of putting some type of workforce housing on there. And, you know, that was met with resistance from the current, at least one of the current owners.
There
And then,
isn't
and
a
then,
lot
uh,
available with one on each side.
and then we started talking about, let's
Those two.
put it out into the
There's these
community,
two.
and immediately we
There's
get one realtor come before us and say, I've got a couple people, and then we heard
This
from,
No, it's
this one
that's
here,
right away.
Tom Tremblay,
That's not a
who
lot.
represents him, and he indicated that he had, Mr. O'Connell wants to put, you know, a building there, put his business there. As you know,
Neither
he's
is
a
that
local builder, so,
There isn't one available.
great
with a lot
job.
on both sides.
I do
There's
have the
two here,
deeds
there's
in
two
front of
here,
me,
there's
and
two
it does say, the deed restriction F says, the grantee, its successors assigns, will provide a site plan reflecting the expected construction and use of the property deeded, for herein to the town of Lincoln for approval within 1 year of the property's transfer. And then it says, grantee, its successors assigns, will complete that construction and develop detailed will complete that construction and development detailed in the approved site plan within 18 months of a site plan approval by the town. So it's actually 2.5 years, because it's a year to go in front of the planning board, and then once the planning board
18
approval,
months to execute it,
you got it.
but still,
Yes.
whatever, it's still there, there's a limit. Can't leave it empty for 12 years. I don't know, I mean, I don't see the problem with it, I don't see the problem not doing it, either way.
The other thing to keep in mind is that any future offer needs to come in before this board and be discussed in public as we're doing today. So it's not like he can come in someday and find out that, oh, well, we made a site deal with someone else to buy the lot. It's gonna be here, it's gonna be discussed, and I would hope that this board or whatever board is listening to that offer
Would notify the
would
abutters.
notify him, which, again, wasn't, um, the last time the offer was made, Mr. Sullivan, I believe, was aware of it, but it didn't come on the board.
So legally, what we will have to do to move forward on this is, per the RSA, we looked it up right before this meeting, just to make sure that we would know the procedure, is that the select board would, after you make your decisions tonight of whether you want to move forward with this, would then inform the planning board and get their recommendation on the sale. The planning board would then have the opportunity to weigh in pros and cons, whatnot, and then present
Make
that,
their recommendation.
make their recommendation to the board of selectmen, and then the selectmen will have to hold 2 public hearings in order to fulfill the requirements of the RSA, and then at that point, you could make the motion to move forward to approve the sale of the lot. So there are plenty of public, essentially, meetings or public forums for which hopefully people will
Why
weigh
don't we send this on to the planning board while we get a
Legal
legal
advice.
opinion in the
Yeah.
meantime?
I think that's a good idea.
Not make a decision one way or the other yet.
The other thing too, along those lines is, let's say I get the right of first refusal on an offer, so I decide to execute that. I have to build within 2.5 years. Well, the market increases, so in a year I decide to flip it and make some money. So, we're tying our hands up a little bit, not, I mean,
Even a new
if somebody
buyer can
comes
come
in.
and do that.
So.
I mean, it's not like we're giving him the rights or a special treatment or that anybody else couldn't have.
Oh, no, we're setting
No.
precedent. That's like OJ said.
It's rights of first refusal.
So I'll make a motion,
Send us to the
forward
planning board.
the request to the planning board and get an opinion on, from our attorney as to the validity of allowing somebody to get a right of first refusal on a future purchase.
Fine with that second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Well, it'd be nice to see another business go with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, that's what we wanted, right? We wanted to have these
This is exactly what we
conversations,
wanted.
right? We wanted to
Yes.
have these
Yeah.
public conversations to, I guess, to pique people's interest again in the business park and.
Get them on the tax rolls.
Right, and again, this is a long-established.
Yeah.
Local
That's
business,
This
great business.
is what we wanted.
This
This
is
is
exactly
exactly
what we
what we
wanted.
wanted. Yeah.
and again, we talked about, not that this would be a deciding factor, but, we talked about, having it for local people who are.
Yeah.
I mean, he went to school with me, so I mean. Someone who's been in town for.
I didn't realize he was that old.
Technically, he was in the same time I was. But he didn't actually graduate with me. Big mouth. All right, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Town manager's report. There's some good things here.
We got some good
Some good
things,
news.
good things.
Yeah.
So the new Xscape mixers, the energy efficient mixers that we installed, this spring are finally up and running with all the electrical work complete. Paul from H2O Innovations, who is our contractor down at the sewer lagoons, he is going to start monitoring the lagoons and periodically shutting off our non-energy efficient mixers to try to start to conserve some energy down there. We just, as a little side note, a little background on the story, they called Ixiom when they finally got all the wiring up and running and they turned them on. There was like such little power being used. They called Ixiom and they're like, we think there's a problem. And Ixiom's like, nope, that's it. That's
That's
how
awesome.
little the amount of energy we're using. And then they showed them how to confirm that they were working. There's a tiny little infrared light that they could see with some binoculars and, you know, fun stuff like that. But Nate says that we should see a drastic reduction in energy usage over there. So, good things.
Now, are the old mixes still needed on high volume days?
I believe so, yeah, because we wanted, you know, this is essentially our first test run with
Right,
these
right.
mixers. So we do believe that the old mixers will still be needed, but I guess that's to be determined in the future. If we feel that these mixers are, you know, working, you know, to their potential or above and beyond their potential, and there's no need for the other units, then maybe there would be the removal of the other units.
We'll know on Christmas week.
Well, no, yeah.
Right, or maybe we replace one more.
Right, we start maybe a
See-
CIP process or
seeing-
something, yeah.
Seeing what the savings are and what they would be if we did one more.
Sure, yeah, I mean, like I said, they were concerned that they weren't working, because they were
That's
using
funny.
such
That's
little
awesome.
electricity.
Yes.
And thank Nate and his crew for their good work in getting that done at such a reasonable price.
Yeah, I mean, they did a lot of the,
Yeah.
yes, they did a lot of the work themselves, to get these up and running, so.
Are there any incentives or grants from any of the electric providers?
So this was part of a grant, it was two parts. It was part of a grant from DES, the Department of Environmental Services, and it was also part of a rebate program through New Hampshire Electric Co-op. So 210,000 is coming from DES and 40,000 is coming from a grant from the New Hampshire Electric Co-op. So essentially, this will be paid for in full. I think the town's total cost when it's all said and done are gonna be about 15 to 20 grand max for a $250,000 cost. So. um,
And
So,
again, part of the reason that cost is so low is, for our portion, is because Nate and
Yeah.
the crew
Nate and the
Yep.
crew,
Did
yeah,
the installation.
did the installation.
did a lot of work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we did have to retrofit some of the things for when the lagoons freeze over and they get slushy, and so they did have to, like I said, retrofit certain parts of it. To make sure that when we get a couple inches of slush and ice on top of that, that things aren't sticking to the wrong places.
Gross.
Gross.
That's just horrible visual.
Okay, so this next one is good, but I have to follow up. So, as of last week, the electrical work on the West Street was complete, and the co-op just had to go in to attach the electrical lines to the poles in the box, and then that project was going to be finished as well. However, this weekend, someone ran through the gate purposefully and, you know, got out of the car and took the gate and flung it and the whole shebang. So we have it on camera. So, you know, we're doing the appropriate things we need to do. But Nate had to go back over today and kind of assess what the damage was. He thinks essentially that gate is made to break away. So it's not like the gate breaking away totally ruined the gate. I mean,
That
that's
still needs to be repaired.
still needs to be repaired. So that
But
was
it's
on.
repairable.
It is repairable. That was on Nate's agenda today. So hopefully he got it back up and running and everything's copacetic, but we did have a little incident
Yeah.
this weekend.
Did the police
The
investigate?
police are aware, and
They-
so
Do they know the perpetrator?
I don't know that for a fact, but I do know that it was caught on camera. So we are doing whatever we need to do to move forward. Okay.
Wasn't me this time.
Wood trial motion for reconsideration. So the judge has ruled in the town's favor regarding the reconsideration hearing. This was the last item that needed to be addressed by the court before we could move forward with jury selection. So, now that has been established, we are hoping to still get on the court's docket, in the next couple of months. So obviously, we're not gonna be on in October because we're already almost halfway through it, but we are keeping our fingers crossed for
It's
November.
not
December.
scheduled yet.
It's not scheduled yet, no. Nelson, so the court has also agreed per the request from both attorneys to make the Nelson trial a bench trial. Essentially, the reasoning behind that is because there is many technical aspects of the work that was done on West Street. We felt it best to argue in front of the judge and the judge alone, rather than having a jury trial, because there's a lot of things that could get lost in the weeds.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
concerned.
makes sense.
Yeah. So the judges agreed. It is scheduled for February 13th through 16th, 2024. Our attorney, Jason Dennis, feels that because that this is a bench trial, that date should be an accurate set in stone date. So you can put it on the agenda, on your calendars. I just did. Okay. At the last meeting, I wasn't in attendance, but I believe that there were some questions regarding how we move forward with the zoning violation penalties for the Joe Chenard lots. I've spoken with Attorney Dennis, and once we give him the green light, he will file a complaint in the Plymouth District Court for the collection of fees. It's about $7,500 as of a week ago. Assuming that the court awards a judgment in that amount, the town could seek an attachment, a lien, or other security for that amount. And I expressed to him that we were thinking about potentially doing this twice a year to coincide with taxes, and he was okay with that. And he just said, just give me the green light. And
Question though, because I was thinking about that. When lien the property, put a lien on the property for the due. However, there's 3 subject properties. Do we divide it by 3 and lien all 3 of them?
That's a good question.
Divide it by
because
2 and just do the 2 of the structures? I mean, I don't.
That's a great question. To be honest, I didn't even think about that because,
Yeah.
we've always been looking at it as one, even though it is 4 or
Exactly.
5, right?
Well, there's 3 subject properties. There's his house, the house across the street, and then that one piece across the street that has the tractor, and the paint cans and stuff. Those are the 3
I
subject
think-
properties.
I think there might be more, I think some of that, anyway,
Yeah,
we can look it
anyway,
up, but let's ask Jason.
Yeah.
Let's ask Jason. Yeah,
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah.
I didn't even, I've been thinking of it as one in a whole,
Right.
but now that you say that, yeah,
Right.
do we file something that references all 3 properties that gets put on file for all 3 properties or something along those lines? I don't know, but yes, let's definitely get some clarification on that. Okay. But if the board's okay, I'll give Jason the green light to do it as of whatever date he files and we move
Just
forward.
file it, yeah.
And then we'll get lien multiple properties. Okay. Okay. That I can do. Forest Ridge road bonds. I know that there was also a question on how we essentially trigger those road bonds or how we move forward with the road bonds. So to terminate the road bonds, it is dependent on either one of 2 things. They either finish construction and finish the top coat of the paving, or a mutually written agreement between both parties. As it appears that there is no plan at the moment to get the work done, if the town wanted to call the bond, it could be done, I guess, in, a couple different ways. We could either want to call the bond and we could contact the bank in which the bond is held and essentially initiate, say, name all the parties, why we're calling the bond, express the work that has yet to be completed and go through that rigmarole. Or we could negotiate a payment with the bonded entity. This would be a payment to the town to do the work. Or we could rely on RSA 236-13 to do the work and then collect the funds consistent with the statute. So those are kind of our options at the moment.
What is the total value of the bond?
There are 2 bonds.
Yep.
One is for $10,000, and that is for on-site road construction, so that would essentially be the top coat. The final finishing pavement of the loop, essentially,
The loop within the pine.
within the pines, correct?
It's just that little.
Just that little loop,
subdivision.
yep. And then the second bond is for $100,000, and that is for off-site road construction, and that is for any damage to the roads leading into the pines.
Has anybody come up with a number to address those two issues? Because when the $10,000 bond was issued, presented, that might have been the cost of pavement and labor back then. I don't know how many years ago that was now.
So essentially, so that bond was larger at some point in time.
Yeah, at least.
And then before my time here, I don't really know how it came about, but essentially in that bond agreement, in that agreement that we have, it says that the developer can reduce the amount of that bond based on the amount of work that is left to be done on the roadway. So at some point in time, there was an agreement between the developer and I assume the town that said, okay, there's only the finishing coat pavement left on top. We're gonna reduce it by X number of dollars to get to where we are for that $10,000. So I don't know, there has been no reevaluation or reassessment of what the total cost will be. In addition to that, the $100,000 off-site road bond, there are multiple stipulations that say it was the developer had the responsibility at the time to document the condition of the roads. It wasn't the town's responsibility. There's obviously comments from the public works director at the time. But I have never seen the documentation. I don't know. I mean, I would have to do a little bit of digging. I don't know if maybe Carol has it, the town planner or somewhere. I imagine that there were copies given to the town of this is the existing condition. So we all had a baseline to move forward from, but I don't know if that's the case or
Those private roads or public roads?
not. Those are private.
I would suggest as a first step that we contact the owner. And
The bondholder or the owner?
the owner. It's the owner who's responsible for doing it. It's the bondholder who would bail us out if the owner doesn't do it. Is that correct?
Yes, the bond agreement is with the developer's bank, essentially. It's not the owner of the property, it's another entity in which.
Right, but if the owner doesn't fix the roads and repave them, then that bank has to give us that bond money to do that work, whether it's sufficient or not.
So this is where the problem is going to lie, is identifying the current owner. Because that property is in bankruptcy, foreclosure, some sort of legal, financial proceedings that we're not necessarily aware of.
I believe that property is controlled by probate, correct?
I believe, yes, I believe there is multi-layers to developing and understanding who is the current owner of that property, and if it is in probate, we're gonna be in line.
Right.
So I don't
Well, then
disagree. I think
to
we need,
determine that and get in line.
I think it would behoove us to contact the bondholder, which is New Jefferson, in addition to trying to get the owner on record, on board. I think the owner on record is gonna be harder than it is to get someone from New Jefferson to work with us on this.
I would keep them both in the loop
Mhm.
and say that, the bond is out there. Do we know when the bond,
It's in October 23. It expires at the end of this month. But every year, they have renewed it without,
what if they don't renew it?
I don't think they have that
Yeah, I
opportunity.
don't think they do.
We get a certificate
There's
from
no
the,
finite, there shouldn't be a finite date on any bond.
yeah, I think we would be the only ones that would be allowed to release it, and I think we would have to release it with some sort of written agreement with the company in which they are, is it? Something here. somewhere in my stack of files. I think if they don't renew it, then we're gonna get into some legal action. I don't think I mean,
Right.
I don't know,
just-
I don't know.
I'm just concerned if they don't pay for it. I mean, there's a cost for them to hold that bond. If they don't pay for that bond,
It says on the continuation certificate that we get every year to ensure that the bond is still good, it says, this continuation shall be deemed a part of the original bond and not a new obligation, is subject to all the covenants and conditions of said bond. So I think that they couldn't just release it without some sort of satisfaction or some sort of written documentation that says
Everything's been-
everything's been,
satisfied.
I would think, but I
what
don't
if,
know.
what if the issuer of that bond gets paid for that guarantee? What if they don't get paid by the end of October? Is it like an insurance policy? They just cancel it?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm just worried about that
Yeah.
happening before we get an answer that we get it canceled. Can we let the bond issuer know that
Mhm.
this has not been satisfied?
Yes.
And, that if a claim needs to be made before the end of October, that we will be doing that.
Mhm.
My preference would be to talk with the landowner and the bond holder first,
Okay.
but if that's a deadline that we're facing, we're gonna lose it. We need to do that, have that conversation with the bond issuer before the end of the month.
Okay. International Fidelity Insurance Company is the holder. Currently. Extension.
I'd like to talk to the attorney, get an opinion from the attorney. The town issues the permit. The town doesn't own the road. I would assume that the bond could be in the name of the homeowners association. So they're the ones that will receive it, and they're the ones that are responsible for, and they're the ones that live it. So they've got the concerns about the conditions of the road. And, so I'm just curious as to how we, even though, like I said, we issue the permit, but we don't own the road. How can you give us the bond in our name and then put the burden on us to repair something that we don't own? I don't know. I'm just, I'd like to talk, I don't necessarily have to talk to Jason about that, but I'd like to get some type of a legal concern.
I think the bond is made out, is backing the town of Lincoln. Not the homeowners association.
It's the town of Lincoln.
It probably is, and that's what I'm asking. I
Yeah.
want to learn, I guess.
Yes, it
Educate-
is.
educate
It's
me.
between the town of Lincoln and New Jefferson Holdings LLC.
The other thing is that too, that we're only required to spend up to what the bond is in order to accomplish the work. We don't have to go over and above, because we went through this when with Black Mountain Road. We only had, put $100,000 bond there. But it ended up that we could do the work that needed to be done for under. And then the remainder goes back, but if we had spent, if it was more than that, we only have to spend up to that.
Then you're leaving the homeowners in a lurch.
No, we're not. The
No, well,
developer did.
see, but we're responsible because we're the bond holder,
Right,
so.
so we could use
You know,
what there is for a
It's
bond
like a catch 22.
in order to
situation.
do what work. we
You know, I don't know the answer to
Neither
that,
do I.
but
That's
it
why-
is, it's definitely a liability for the town, even though we have that bond there. Number one, what happens to it at the end of this month when it expires? We need to make a claim before that. Number two is what do we do with the money? Do we organize? Do we just give it to the homeowners association, say, this is for the road? I mean, most of that road, like from Route 112, not a road expert, but into to like where the indoor pool building is.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's problems with the road, but it's not horrendous.
It's not horrendous, no.
It's when you turn left there, then it becomes,
When you get on,
Horrendous.
when you get on Woodland Loop, right?
okay, whatever that name is.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get on Woodland Loop,
Yeah.
and then as you get closer to the Pines, obviously, there are some major problems, but. Yeah, for the most part, Forest Ridge Road going up and in is obviously has normal wear and tear, you know, but it's not, to the extent that Woodland Loop is. Okay, we'll do a little bit more work on that.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Fire station structural analysis. So Du Bois and King performed their structural analysis of the fire department on 9/26. I printed out one of the reports. It's like 30 pages. So if you want me to.
You emailed it to us.
Yeah, you
Oh, I
know
did.
that-
Oh, okay, good. So the major takeaways are that they feel that any future expansion or addition should be structurally isolated from the existing structure. The existing roof structure cannot support currently prescribed snow loads nor previously prescribed snow loads due to missing wood roof truss bracing. Those are like the two major issues that they found. Ryan and Mike are still working with Climovent to investigate options for the air quality in there, because we do know we have an issue that when the trucks start up and they're within the building,
Yeah.
there's no separation from the toxic fumes and so they are working with Climovent. They're supposed to be out here, I think next week, to get the lay of the land and put together some options for us. So once
For building maintenance of the CIP, because the issue with the roof trusses and the snow load should be addressed immediately.
yeah, I mean, if we're gonna continue to operate that building, we should probably get someone in there to do so. I don't. Yeah, I have the CIP right in front of me.
Okay.
Fire department building and infrastructure, they have currently. At the end of this year, they'll have 24,000.
Will that cover the additional trusses that need to be done?
I have no idea. I would hope so.
Are we working on that to get an estimate?
Yeah, so the next step, so Ryan and Mike are working with Climovent to get those, investigate options to address the air quality, and then once complete, they were gonna put together a nice little report of their findings and suggestions for you all and come in and present it to you, so.
Okay. Brian's gonna do that.
Yeah.
There was one sentence in there. Or that you did say. structural sound.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not gonna fall in. but
It's not gonna fall in, but it's,
It needs improvements.
Right.
Again.
yeah, we need to, you know, there's some,
Said it.
yeah, there's some foundation cracks,
Yeah.
there are some wall cracks that need to be monitored to make sure that they're not growing. And to just ensure that they, I guess, are,
We had some pinnings and filling done a few years ago.
yeah, and I think that probably needs to be done again, at least the filling portion of it. That's one of the things that they suggest in the report is to monitor the cracks and make sure they're not growing, and if they're not growing, to then fill them in. But yeah, they did say the building was structurally sound, but if we were thinking about putting an addition or expansion on, it'd have to be separate,
Structurally separate.
structurally
It
separate.
could be right beside it.
Sure.
Against it, just structurally.
There probably could be a,
I was thinking about the idea you had going on the side there where the steps are, this side of it, which would be awesome. But what are they do for parking in the winter?
Right.
That snow is all gonna come down on there, so if it's snowing and they get a call, there's no place to park.
well, where are they
Unless
just gonna park in general? I mean, that's where they park right now when they show up
Well,
for
it
a
won't
call.
take,
and-
putting an addition on there to get another truck or something in, won't take up all that parking.
Right,
There's
if it's-
some parking.
Okay,
However, in the winter, it's gonna be a pain in the, I mean, all of the snows that come off, all of that roof would go right there where they park.
Mhm.
The parking lot across the road could be utilized, but right now we use that for snow storage.
and also for municipal public parking.
Right, but still, I mean, it could be, we could stick pickups there for the firemen and truck cars, whatever. When we get a call or something, but I mean, we just have to
Yeah.
think about that when we.
My only concern with that is that I know that that parking lot is used for flapjacks on the week, you know, on the weekends and busy, I mean, this whole week flapjacks has been bumping, you know?
Got room in the church park.
And there's,
You don't want people who are responding to a call to worry about finding.
Where am I gonna find
parking.
exactly?
We don't want to do that, right? So I think we need to have,
Maybe some thoughts gonna go into. it.
yeah, designated parking no matter what we do, because we don't want a first responder worried about where am I gonna park my vehicle.
Exactly.
no,
Thank you.
there will definitely be parking issues in the winter time. But I don't.
Which is the bulk of our gear. Is winter.
But I don't think it's unsolvable.
No,
The, you know, the current parking will still remain there. It's just that instead of the roof ending here and having 8 or 10 feet of snow drop
Mhm.
space, it would be right at the
Back
parking lot,
in the parking lot.
which means that after every storm, that's gonna need to be,
Clear.
bucket loaded out of there.
Into the parking lot across the road.
Well, no, into a dump truck and all the way, which is more work.
Yeah.
But that's
which
where,
is a nice-
but that's where Nate's been putting. Is in that parking lot. Winter, that's full of snow. All winter.
Well, it might need to go, get trucked away. Which is more work, more time,
Mhm.
but far less expensive than building a whole new building.
Well, I mean, you also have the idea of like Woodstock has a lower Woodstock fire station. It just stores trucks, equipment. You know, which if we've got up by the old salt shed, I think is where you suggested last time. I mean, would it be more cost effective to put up a 2-bay building to keep the forest truck, the ATV, the trailer, you know, some equipment? What we get, we should look at that as well, not just
Substation, just.
totally discount it out of that.
Just a
Yeah.
substation.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what would be more expensive.
I don't either, honestly, I could tell you.
Yeah, neither could I. But at least I think it's good that we're investigating our options currently in the current location to just make sure that we understand the full picture before we make any decisions.
Right, no, I was
Right.
encouraged by the report, and most of the,
Mhm.
the action items were monitor this, monitor that.
Right.
You know, crack seal
Crack
this.
ceiling, yeah.
The biggest thing was really the roof, the trusses,
Trusses, yeah.
and,
Mhm.
and, but it
That's
wasn't
easily
like,
fixable.
yeah, they wasn't like we need to.
Right.
We trust the whole
Right.
system, it just, there was places where there was truss supports missing.
Sure.
Put them in.
Right.
And I think Mr. Dunning improvements to that.
I think Fadden did that. Fadden built
I
that.
thought
Oh, the
the
improvements.
improvements,
recently.
remove the fill, he called me and
Oh.
the one that came up about that. And I
He
think he said Mr.
assisted the
Gagnon.
company
put
when they
roof
did
trusses
the-
in. Well, anyway,
And I mean, and there's definitely some other, I don't wanna call them cosmetic, but there's definitely some other issues that will need to be addressed. The bathrooms are
The
not,
bathrooms,
the bathrooms are totally inadequate.
not compliant.
Yeah, they're not compliant, they're totally inadequate. They're not even being used as a bathroom
Yeah.
currently, you know,
plumbing issues that doesn't allow them to be used.
Right.
That's not structural, like.
No,
you
that's
need
like
to
you said, I don't wanna
fix the
call it
wall,
cosmetic, but
fix
it's,
the
right,
plumbing.
right. So there's definitely additional work other than,
Sure.
you know, that should be addressed. If we're gonna keep that building and maintain that building as our primary operations center, there are issues beyond the roof that are gonna need to be addressed. But like I said, I think overall it wasn't, you know,
Yeah.
wasn't bad.
Awesome.
We still have another CIP meeting coming up on the 24th of October.
I think it's the 24th, yeah.
And so, you know, if we find something that needs to be done immediately, the CIP committee could possibly put money that town meeting would vote on.
Yeah, so like we have, and one, I think we're proposing to put more in, so at the end of this year, we'll have 24, and then they're proposing to put 25 in 24. So that would bring us up to 50. Right. It's a good starting point. Okay.
Awesome.
That's essentially all I have for my town manager's report, but I do want to just say one reminder that next Monday is the bid opening for the new police facility at 2 p.m. So
So we should have that. Meeting. Oh, we're not meeting next week, though.
we're not meeting next in the evening. I think you all have it on your calendars to meet during the day for the bid opening.
I have it on for Friday and I have it on for Monday. Did that
Yeah, I
get
got it.
changed?
Yeah,
Friday, too.
so originally it was Friday, but when the bids went out, we decided that we wanted to give them a full month and it was cutting the month short, so we gave
So
them
Monday
the
the 16th.
Monday, the 16th at
2
2
p.m.
p.m. Yeah, so we gave them the weekend to give them the additional
All right.
couple days that we need.
Second
Okay,
date got on my calendar,
Okay.
but I didn't write.
Yeah, we did
I just
Friday
didn't know.
the 13th.
yeah, we didn't want to do
No,
anything
but
on Friday
we
the
didn't wanna
13th.
be- Did Friday the 13th.
So that's the only thing I have this evening or left.
All right, we have another yield tax for cutting of trees up on, it looks like the Loon Landing property for $177.03.
Yes, you had signed, I think it was 2 meetings ago, you signed the request for someone to submit the report. They submitted their
That's the-
report
this is
and that
the,
is the tax.
Does this need to be, there's no vote or anything, right?
No, you're good.
Typically not voted on that, just, yeah, it's just, we'll keep an eye.
I do have some, it wasn't on my town manager's report, but I will just give you a preemptive kind of heads up. So Health Trust, who is the town's insurance provider, held their annual meeting last week and they set their rates for the 2025. They meet on a fiscal year, so they start in July, the 2024-2025 rates, and it is slated to jump an additional 16%. If you remember, it went up 17% last year and 16% this year. There's a big uproar about it. That's
Well, we were going to discuss the town's policy on health insurance.
we are. So I've
So this is
started
a good, segue, yeah.
yes, so I told Jane, who kind of handles our health insurance administration, I told her to not sign anything or give anyone an AOK until we see revised numbers. Because Health Trust does offer a variety of plans. The town employees are very fortunate to be on the top tier of those variety of plans, so I think we are going to have to investigate potentially. Not necessarily leaving Health Trust and going to an independent provider, but
Mhm.
maybe going to one of the tiers, the less expensive tiers that have different deductibles and copays and all that kind of stuff. Especially because we also want to, I think, investigate the potential of getting spouses and dependents and adding that kind of coverage for our employees. So I did start a spreadsheet, essentially worst case scenario, total costs, and but I just want to give you a heads up that that's where they're heading.
Awesome.
And essentially they're blaming it on their reserve. Well, I don't want to say blaming. Their reasoning behind the big jump last year and the big jump this year is they had a few years, it was before my time here, but in 2020 and 2021, they gave back large surpluses to the towns because they have to keep a certain amount in their reserves to pay all the claims over a 10-year period of time. They had a surplus because there were very little claims in 2020 and 2021 because of the COVID pandemic. People weren't going to the hospitals, they weren't having their routine surgeries, they weren't doing that. So they gave their surplus back. They gave too much essentially surplus back because then when the world opened back up, they got hit with claims in 22 and 23. So now their reserves are not covering their 10-year plan.
Yeah.
So that's the increase for this year and next year.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, it does make sense. Unfortunately, I imagine the town of Lincoln was fortunate enough to get a large surplus back or one of the large checks back.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's kind of taking the good with the bad, but I do think a 30% jump over a 2-year period of time is, on the high side.
Yeah.
Is that reserve dictated by the State Department of Public Health, or is that an internal organization?
I think it's an internal, I think they have their own board of directors
Yeah.
that, maintains that. That's all I have.
Do you have anything?
No, sir.
No, mine was covered. Thank you.
All right, I just have just a question, at some point before our next meeting, can you send us what the current balances are in the water tap and sewer tap accounts? And what expenditures either have or will come out of that this calendar year?
I'll tell you that I looked at them the other day. I don't have the exact number, but we're hovering about around $1 million on both of them. But I'll get those exact figures. for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I don't I know that, we don't have any proposed money coming out of those funds immediately. We do need to make some audit adjustments from last year because when we were accounting for the overage on West Street, we took some money from the capital reserves and we took some money from the water and sewer funds. And then when that project was closed out and all said and done, we didn't actually need as much money as we had earmarked from these different funds. So we do have to do some reimbursements per se to those accounts from our auditors. We had a couple audit entries for that, adjusting entries for that. But that's really the only true money I see moving in the accounts this year, but I'll get those figures for you.
We will have the water tower, the water tank. That's gonna come out, a portion's gonna come out of that, in addition to the grant money, in addition to the bond.
Yep.
The developers' participation of 1.2 million.
We haven't seen too many expenditures on that, but I imagine we will starting very soon because we signed the contract with Weston and Sampson. What was that? A couple weeks ago or, yeah. Oh, no, we haven't even seen that yet. We saw the Route 3 water main contract. I don't think we've seen a contract for the development of the water tank as of yet, but yes, that money will.
We've been
come in.
paying Weston and Sampson for their engineering
Correct,
to get us through the.
exactly. We'll
Forces.
start getting,
Process.
yeah, those bigger bills will start rolling in, I
Yeah.
imagine.
The grant money, is that in the TAPI account? Is that in a separate account?
So the way the MBRC grant works is we have to spend our $500,000 first before they give us their $500,000. So we are tracking on a spreadsheet, all of our expenditures, but we don't get the money until we spend our share. Also just an FYI too, kind of veering off, we did open a new bank account at Union Bank for the bond proceeds because the only accounts that we have at Union Bank are the water and sewer tap fees and the impact fee, the bedroom fee. And we didn't want to intermingle bond funds with water and sewer tap fees.
Yeah.
We wanted to keep them
Yeah.
totally separate from each other. So this week, Janet went this morning and signed all the paperwork to open a new account that will be specifically for the bond proceeds to draw down the bond. So, because it had to be at Union Bank because they were the bond provider. So we opened a new account, just for the bonds.
Good call. Can you add bedroom?
Yes.
To the water and sewer tap fees?
Yes.
That was the only thing I had that wasn't covered. Right, then next will public participation. Anybody who'd like to?
You're up.
You could wake up now.
Guys. My concern is the homelessness in town. I saw a woman walking, a couple times, she's carrying bundles, and I asked the town if anybody approached her, gave her any assistance, and they said numerous times that she's refused. And that made me think about our town, and say I decide to go pitch a tent, and I wanna live, down here on the common, and cook my food and start living there. And then I tell my buddy, this is a nice little town, it's pretty safe, why don't you guys come up on the bus? And I've seen someone do this, come off the bus, get a cart from, a grocery store, put some stuff in it. And I literally watched this person do this, and I thought, wow, they're setting up shop in Lincoln. And I don't know if there's an ordinance, kind of ignorant about this, but is there an ordinance against overnight camping within public property in Lincoln? And if there isn't, I'm proposing that you create a subcommittee or someone to look into that. I think it'd be a good idea. I foresee a problem coming here, and homelessness is different categories. There are people that want to be homeless. I've looked into that. I call them professional homeless people. I've listened to somebody call up and say, I'm gonna go to Plymouth. I can get a meal here, a meal there. I'm gonna do as I please, and I wanna be home. I'm not gonna adhere to any rules. I'm gonna do my drugs, and I'm gonna go where it's comfortable. I actually heard this person, I talked to them about it. Then you have homeless people that, they've had hard luck, they want help, and they'll accept help. And then you have people that are mentally ill that can't cope with, mainstream life. And so they fall into homelessness and they don't know how to ask for help. There's all kinds of categories. I looked up the statistics for New Hampshire for, the Department of Health and Human Services. I looked at that. I looked at National Alliance for Mental Illness in New Hampshire. And for 2023 in January, the statistics are 29.5% people that are homeless are mentally ill. That is higher than the national average. New Hampshire has a higher amount than the national average for people that are mentally ill that are homeless. So I guess what I want to do is have the town look into this. What's preventing a tent city here? I don't want to see a baby born in the winter having to be saved like what happened in Manchester and is happening around us. I think the town needs to be proactive in preventing me from camping on your lawn. If I decide, it's a nice day, we got a little tent, we can just move right in. I think the town needs to look at that, and I know town ordinances do a lot. Woodstock, we have one, you can't walk around drinking a beer. I mean,
That's a state law. That's a
whereas,
state law.
right?
Yeah.
So now I'm in Lincoln. So, my proposal is maybe a subcommittee looks into this. That there'd be an ordinance in town, so you don't have me camping on your lawn, if I feel like it. And maybe incorporate your police chief, people that are educated in this, to look into this. I think your only hope against it is an ordinance. There are people that want to be homeless, they want to do as they please, they want to do their drugs, and they want to leave their garbage here and walk around town and then pick up that bundle and stuff later on. And that's why I'm here and not eating my supper.
Before we go too much further, New Hampshire RSA 249:54. No person shall pitch a tent or place or erect any other camping device or sleep on the ground within the public right of way or on public property unless permission is received from the governing board of the governmental authority having jurisdiction over such public right of way or property. So there's a state law preventing that from happening already.
Yes, yeah, I will
Yes,
say
so
that
yes.
we definitely do have a growing homeless population. We've seen that in our welfare office this
Mhm.
past year. You are absolutely correct that there are some folks who want help and there are folks who don't want help. And we've all seen probably our familiar faces walking down the street. And I will say this though, we have on numerous occasions, especially this summer, if we can see someone camping out, we've had people camp out at the library, we've had people camping out in the gazebo, the dugouts, the PD is called, and in most cases, they peacefully pack up their stuff and they go and find another location. It's, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, there hasn't been any sort of major resistance or volatility when it comes to that. It is because of the state law. We usually call the PD and we say, we notice someone sleeping at the gazebo at the library, we notice someone sleeping, and we, right.
Same person.
Well,
we try our best to.
I personally spoke to, and I don't wanna point the person out, but one of the very visible homeless people in town was extremely educated, not destitute at all. Driver's license, owns property, not here, but, and she is choosing this. This is the choice that this person is making. And it's a beautiful area and they're visiting for the summer and tend to head south when it starts to get colder. And that was their choice.
We try our
Very
best to
visible.
encourage, if they are choosing to live
Very peaceful.
off the land per se, we try to encourage going to one of the campgrounds, potentially going to one of the areas in which they can kind of have both lifestyles essentially. Another problem we run into is that there aren't very many homeless shelters in our area. There's one in Plymouth that's usually has very few beds. There's one in Laconia that usually has very few beds. And then, one, north that is, yeah, so, they're few and far between. So we do try our best if they are willing to accept some help to try to relocate them to one of these shelters, or the Veterans Association, the Veterans Home. We do try our best, and like I said, we are very rarely met with resistance. They're usually very, cooperative, and they pack up and move on, but, it is a growing issue.
The woman that you talked about initially, she was approached and by somebody that was very concerned, carrying her bags back and forth on a daily basis. And, she was offered some employment. She says, I can't be employed because I don't even have a social security. I don't have any identification. Last week, for 2 days, I was over in Maine, the Maine State Housing Conference. Their governor spoke. There were 500 attendees, 500 different groups there. We went through a tent city when we came in. It was in the city of Portland. And there was a tent city there, and I was surprised by the number of homeless that they have over there. I sit on a board that's called Housing Ministries of New England, and we deal with these issues by making loans and or grants to nonprofits to build affordable housing for veterans, for homeless, for elderly, for disabled. And we've given out over $2 million in grants. But every town has it, and whether you've got it visible or invisible, it exists. Somebody's sleeping in somebody's basement, somebody's sleeping in an attic on a couch surfing, what have you.
There's a lot of people sleeping in cars.
In cars, if they have cars. And we know somebody, right, that you and I know somebody that, is an issue, but it was, I don't know if it still is, drugs. I mean, a number of people have gone to the local church to get food vouchers. Marcus Corey has stepped in to help people that have had homeless issues, trying to get them counseling in many cases. And like you say, statistics will bear out that many times it's mental illness and or addiction. And that combination is a bad combination. Boston's got hundreds of them outdoor prostitution, outdoor drug use in the open down there, massive gas down there. It's but like Karina says, I mean, we're a small town, so collectively with the resources here, we can try to help. And, we don't get overburdened for it. Nobody wants to, if somebody said, I'm gonna build a shelter here, I think that people would be up in arms. But yet the problem exists, and it could be a relative, could be son or daughter, or somebody that, for whatever reason, even though the help is there, they refuse to help, so.
So does this town bring them to Plymouth, probably?
We do, if there's an available bed. It's all based on availability. So, because we contribute on an annual basis to the Bridge House in Plymouth, we are one of the towns that can call if we do have a person in need, and
If they have
availability.
then
It's all about availability, and unfortunately, we are lucky if we call and they say, yes, we have a bed.
If they don't
They
have,
have Liberty House in Manchester for the veterans.
Yes.
Kathy, from the Bridge House, the group that I said, we give her $100,000 to build an addition there. And, I've been there numerous times with Kathy, and she does a great job. But again, it's full, and once people get in there, many times, they stay there. She tries to get them back on their feet, get jobs for them, get them sober or what have you.
Right.
And, again, it's not a big turnover, so
No.
you don't have enough resources.
We do. There's also Horizons in Manchester, and they operate slightly different than some of the homeless shelters in our immediate area, whereas everyone leaves during the day and it's a first come, first serve on the way back in. So we have had a few scenarios where we say, okay, Plymouth is full, Littleton's full, Laconia is full. Laconia also, there are certain homes, like the Carey House, that require drug testing. So if you're not gonna pass a drug test when you get in the door, there's no point in even trying to attempt to get in the door, right? So, but in Manchester Horizons, we'll offer that sometimes as a solution where we we'll buy you a bus ticket to Manchester and.
By
If you-
law, though, we cannot transport them or give them a bus ticket someplace if there isn't a confirmed bed. But someplace confirmed that will take them and have them. And if there's nothing, the town of Lincoln is responsible.
Yeah, it's called.
We
yeah,
can't just
I don't want you
Down
down.
there.
You saw what they did in Nashua. They moved the tent city towards, an area, because they were along the railroad tracks down there.
Yeah.
And the railroad, was gonna be doing some work, so they wanted to move. So Nashua is following that RSA, giving them permission. And where they moved them into the different plots, some of the homeowners there,
Oh, yeah.
somebody fired some shots the other day at one of the homeless people, yeah. So, I mean, it's all around us, it's been existing for forever. But by the same token, now it's, with social media, everything becomes out in the open.
Does the town itself, do we have any type of laws that control things?
We follow the
I
state
mean,
law.
if,
They go by the
We
state,
just have to follow the state law.
that's it.
but that keeps me from camping.
Yeah, and at least it allows, it permits people from trespassing in the town common or on the public library or on your front lawn or in the Hannaford parking lot, or the Price Chopper parking lot. It gives us a mechanism
I
to say
just
you have to
foresee
move
that
on.
Next, 'cause I'm seeing them now.
Yeah, like I said, it's definitely, we've seen it grow this summer.
So if I see somebody, I just call the police.
Yep, absolutely.
Somebody to.
Yeah, and if you're not always comfortable, we get calls here at town hall that, they're not always comfortable calling the police, they don't want them to get in trouble, or they just aren't as familiar with the police, I guess, as we are,
These were really friendly and less military.
Our
And
police
walk
officer are
the
great,
road
yeah.
on Main Street. And I suggested that, it never happened, I felt that police should, walk around amongst people, but I guess they don't want to. That helps, if they used to walk from shop to shop and actually check the doors locked in my day,
Yeah.
in Woodstock. And they knew you personally, and they knew.
That was the size of the towns were a lot
Times
smaller
there,
then
too,
too, yeah. It's, our towns, both of them, the community has grown so much. And our police stations, neither one of them have grown at the same rate. So it's hard to have that personal touch when you don't have enough officers to do it.
Are you aware now that we have a resource officer in the high school?
Yeah, I did, we voted for.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
important. I mean, that, that really tips off a lot from the students there as to what's going on, that not public knowledge a lot of times. They will tell, and that officer will pass it on through the chain of command to address the issue.
Yes, but at any time, you can call the PD, you could call town hall, and, we will try to address it the best we can.
Yeah,
Well, thank you. I just.
thank you for coming in, thank you for caring, yeah.
All right, is there any other public participation for tonight? Wayne?
Just an update.
Okay,
A month ago, we talked about the Printing Times with a new ownership, and the lady was interested in expanding it. It's amazing what she's done in here in a month. This is now 16 pages. She's added twice as much advertising, and in some cases, half pages of colored advertising. And there seem to be more articles from towns stating what the amenities are in the town or activities going on. It looks as though there are articles in here from Whiteville and Littleton and St. Johnsbury that were not in here before, which is primarily Woodville. So just an update that she seems to be doing what she said she wanted to do. There are about 14,000 copies of this distributed in Lincoln and picked up by people over the course of the year. So someone's looking at this and doing something with it. Fireplace, probably. I just wanted to give you an update that she's making progress.
Thank you.
Good for her, yeah, that's fantastic, thank you. Thanks.
do you have anything in non-public? We talked about the two laws.
I can give you a real quick update on personnel, but it's not very, it's not a heavy lift.
Okay. Anything? All right, I'll make the motion that we go into non-public to discuss one personnel. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you all. for
Thank
coming.
you for coming.
Yeah.
You-
Second.
All
Most
in
tenants
favor?
are having a lot of time. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your concern. It's a valid concern. No, it's valid, absolutely. I do know that